no, absolutely not.
Then why go back, Bob?
Exploration. Why go to the top of the mountain? It's a completely different world now than it was in the 60s. There's a lot more technology, so there's a lot more we can investigate there. And the original reason to go to the moon was never to research the moon. Aside from beating the Russians there, the original intention was only to see the feasibility, or to investigate the feasibility of making a small base there and launching a Mars mission from the moon. This was all about going to Mars. The moon was only supposed to be because it would be easier to get there from the moon, less gravity, so on and so forth.
Sure.
And that was just to be looked upon as a potential launching site for a Mars mission. So the interest was never in the moon. I mean, we pretty much knew it was just a rock up there anyway. The interest has always been in Mars, but Mars isn't that easy to get to.
Unless you had a moon base, and that would help.
Well, yeah, that would help. It's a shortcut, and you could store fuel there. There would be, if plans had gone how they should have, maybe we would have already been to Mars. But I think that's the frontier we should look at, is investigating that, or go to Europa. There's plenty of things in our immediate solar system that are potentially fascinating, and Europa has probably the best chance of life in our solar system, and even the hardcore skeptics at NASA pretty much agree there's a good chance there's something in the oceans there. So,
but Bob, if we've got technology that can manipulate gravity, and damn, it was back in the early 90s when you knew that we had that. Here we are launching, whether it's a Saturn V or a shuttle or however we get back to the moon, and for what reason I'm not sure about, but whatever. We're using ancient buggy-like technology compared to what exists now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't care what spacecraft they've come up with. In my eyes, they still look like fireworks. And they've proven themselves to be that on occasion.
Yes.
But it's archaic technology, and we do have something that operates differently. However, it has limited fuel, a limited lifespan, and we don't want to lose it. So as far as I knew at the time, we couldn't even come close to duplicating even the most basic parts of the device. So what are you left with? You're left with your own archaic method of transportation to other planets, and you can only investigate what's going on around you.
So then, Bob, we have been unable to decipher the manner in which, or duplicate the manner in which gravity is manipulated by the devices on the craft that you saw. Obviously, we failed, or what? In other words, otherwise we'd be using this technology, so we failed?
Well, quite possibly. Now, again, I hesitate because I'm talking about my knowledge from the early 90s and late 80s. I don't know what's happened up till today. But as far as I knew back then, yeah, we failed. That's the bottom line. We're not going to be duplicating that.
Do you think these craft, when tested, were taken outside the Earth's atmosphere?
No.
You do not?
No, I know that for a fact.
For a fact?
Yeah. I don't, well.
Well? What?
I just...
No, go ahead. Just whisper it in my ear.
Yeah, I pretty much know that for a fact.
Why, out of curiosity?
This is what we're getting real close to one of the areas that I said that I purposely don't talk about, so I know if anybody's been involved with a project, which has to do with the craft and where it's gone.
Oh.
So this is why you're hearing my hesitation on this.
Okay, well, the next thing out of my mouth was going to be, why do you think, if we thought, or we had...
Well, look, this is a very valuable article, and it's an operating craft. I don't know if the other crafts were operating. We know this one does. There's only one of them.
So in other words,
one of a kind of thing. Would you risk taking this out of... of the Earth's gravitational pull and losing it in space.
Yeah,
no.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
This is their prized possession.
And you believe we still have that safely wherever? By the way, do you think it's still up there, or do you think it's been moved, and if so, where do you suppose?
I don't know. I always thought that was an odd place to put it, because in the early days of the nuclear weapon development, some of the best places that they kept everything were in the South Pacific, like Kwajalein Island and things of that sort. And
it's a good point.
You don't have any looky-loos there. You have no hassles from anybody. You're in the middle of nowhere, and nobody can get there without you seeing them.
What a tremendous point. And
that's where I would have put it. I wouldn't have built this secret base in the middle of Nevada, outside of Las Vegas. The only reason they moved the nuclear test site to Nevada was because it was just too expensive running supplies back and forth and all the personnel to the South Pacific. Well, you don't have that problem with the ET program because it's limited personnel, limited supplies, and, go hide it in the middle of the ocean on an island like they did with everything else. So if I was going to put it somewhere, that's where it would be.
Why do you think instead it ended up here in Nevada?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because obviously there are going to be more people conceivably seeing what's going on.
There's got to be a reason. Somebody must have,
Bob, they still drive up to the mailbox. People take videos. People take pictures. So then there's another great theory that you might want to comment on. That is that they want there to be a slow time release of information. They want rumors. They want talk about this subject for some reason that fits their agenda. Otherwise, put it in the South Pacific and, nobody...
Well, there may be some other shortcomings of having it out in the middle of the ocean that, that we're not thinking of, but...
perhaps.
I don't know. Maybe they need lots of supplies to get... to deal with this thing, and
maybe they figured if it crashed, it's going to be deep down under the Pacific somewhere potentially, and we'd lose it that way.
That's quite possible too.
The desert is good for one thing, isn't it? It's it's just there, and it's fairly arid, and you'd definitely be coming down on land if you landed in a strange place.
Anywhere in Nevada, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe your original point is actually the reason.
It could be.
That they wouldn't want to risk losing the one model they've got.
Yeah,
then you figure they're still working on trying desperately to back-engineer this, or do you think by now they've done it?
It's been a long time.
It sure has.
I would hope they've made some substantial progress in 10 years. But, if you don't have access to exotic materials...
then you're
what are you
stuck.
going to do?
No fuel, and that's
it's like I said before, being back in the 1800s, and if you want to make something out of plastic, all you can do is look at it and say, hey, this is really neat, but how do we make this stuff? And
hold on, we're at the top of the hour. We'll be right back with Bob Lazar and you.
From coast to coast and worldwide on the internet, this is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
We love you, baby. And because we do, we're going to let you talk with Bob Lazar in a moment. If you'll stay right where you are. The forum, the questions are directly ahead. By the way, tomorrow night, we'll give Dr. Greer what I now call the Lear test. We'll give him the Lear test. And I just can't let go of that. Ever since John said what he said on this program, I can't let go of it for some reason. Anyway, coming up in a moment, Bob Lazar is going to attempt to answer your questions. So, I guess what I would say is prepare yourself, Bob, because you never know what's going to come.
All right.
It's fun, Bob. Don't worry. It's actually it's fun.
What's the John Lear test, by the way?
Oh, what's the John Lear test? It's really cool, to use your phrase. John took me to a briefing. In essence, he said, "Art, imagine you're going to this briefing, And I'm going to lay the briefing out for you, showing you slides and, putting things on the blackboard. And I'm going to explain to you everything the United States and world governments have ever done regarding the whole ET issue. And you tell me at the end of it if you would say, okay, make it all public.
Okay, yeah, this is what you had touched on before. Okay.
Yeah. And, at the end of it, I said, no, I wouldn't.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. And
why? Now that really intrigues me. Why would you say that?
Because some of the things that John said are so far beyond the pale that the religious implications, the social implications, the fact that I do believe people would go berserk, I mean completely berserk. It would take down our government. It would disturb the world. It would disturb the force. It would be...
You really think people wouldn't be able to handle this?
Well, you've got to remember now that the test was given from the John Lear perspective. And remember that John believes a lot of things to be true that you don't, right?
Yes, I am quite aware of
And
that.
so to take the John Lear test, you've got to take what he says as gospel. In other words, here's what some of the terrible things we've done, really terrible things. Would you make it public? And if you had to assume that everything he said there is correct, I guarantee you, I'll bet you'd come up with the same answer. So,
well, yeah, I come up with the same answer without that. But I truly hope everything John Lear believes isn't true. But
me too. Oh, me too. But believe
but
me.
I have been proven wrong before about many other things. So who knows?
All right, you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here we go. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with John Lear. Hello.
No, Bob Lazar.
I've got John on the mind here. Bob Lazar, how you doing?
Hi, Art. Hi, Bob.
Hey there.
Howdy.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to both of you. It's been a while since I talked to you, Art.
Well, glad to have you back.
Bob, I just missed meeting you by day one time, and I regret that. I was
Where
wondering
was that?
That was down in Nevada.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering if you knew about a material called starlight. It was supposedly created by a couple of scientists, but I've always had suspicions it was, alien technology.
Starlight, what is this material, sir?
Well, a physicist told me about this material. It's like two liquid plastics, and when you put it together, it forms an indestructible solid. Nuclear blast won't touch it. Nothing will destroy it.
Have you heard of such material, Bob?
No, I'm pretty skeptical about a claim like that.
Well, it's not supposed to be classified, and it came from a pretty reliable source. And also, John wanted me to ask you about the orange crate in the crater Copernicus.
John wanted you to ask me about the orange crate?
Right, the crate on the moon.
John who? Lear?
John Lear, yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. He showed me a picture one time, and there was a perfectly square object on a moon picture, and said, "Well, what's this orange crate doing there?" And we were arguing about, some of the images from the moon, and these grainy little things with a couple dots, and John was claiming, "Well, that's just the reflection from a giant, glass dome over so-and-so." And but anyway, he did have some pictures that I couldn't explain, but
Well, Bob, and some of what John says is pretty wild. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But on the one hand, Bob, you're somebody who's actually seen alien craft. Most of us haven't. So to have seen what you've seen, are the things then John says really so crazy?
yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, a lot of people would say, flying saucers, we got them, you've seen them. Oh, come on. That's crazy.
Right, I know, that's crazy, and maybe it makes me a hypocrite for saying so, but look, I am the first one to admit that if somebody came forward to me with my identical story and laid everything in my lap, I'm not sure I'd buy it, so I can't expect anything else from anybody else. And in fact, I almost prefer people don't believe it, because then I get hassled less about it.
Martin in San Rafael says, and I think this is accurate and why I love interviewing you. It says, Lazar, continues to be the most credible witness of all. Straightforward, direct, not self-serving. No books, tapes, no website, nothing to sell. He just describes what he saw, reluctantly at that. He makes a believer of this skeptic.